All right. Hey there. We're gonna talk today. It's Mother's Day, which is really fun and everything, especially if you have like a questionable relationship with your mother, which is the situation that I have. Yeah, this I'm like obviously uncomfortable because this is like a challenging topic to discuss. Um, but I have some ideas. I have some notes that I want to talk about. I am open to your opinions and your thoughts as well. Please share them with me. Let me know how you're feeling today. Yeah, emotionally, I feel kind of weird overall. I have an interesting way of processing emotion. I think it takes me quite a long time to process emotion, and I'm getting used to the fact that like that is the way that my system prefers to operate. Sometimes I get annoyed because I don't necessarily enjoy the fact that that it takes me so long to process my emotions about things, but I have to be patient with myself. And if you're in this space, I hope that you're patient with yourself as well. So generally, my thoughts on Mother's Day are that it's a pretty commercialized holiday. I'm almost certain that I don't know, like I didn't look up the history of Mother's Day before this, but I'm pretty sure if I did, it's probably just created one day to celebrate mothers for some reason, but pretty much obviously turns into some type of capitalistic venture to sell flowers and teddy bears and stuff. So at the end of the day, I'm like, I don't really care about Mother's Day. Whatever, it doesn't bother me. I don't celebrate it. I don't have a need to celebrate Mother's Day or whatever. Um, but at the same time, here I am having feelings about Mother's Day. And, you know, even though this is some fabricated holiday that we've just decided to coin, I find myself being very reflective. And I thought that the idea that it falls on a day where I normally kind of make videos and have conversations with you guys, I figure I'd share my thoughts with you. Um, I am going through, like I said, it's taken me a long time to process my emotions. Like even in this moment, I feel pretty emotionally activated in my body. And I'm frustrated that I feel this way because I'm like, come on. Like, I've been disconnected from my mom for a while. Why am I not, over this? And those thoughts don't last very long. I feel like I've gotten really over that line of thinking. I don't think that too much, but I am curious about what these emotions are about nowadays. I want to share with you a couple of topics, what it was like to grow up with a mom that I felt really disconnected from. I never felt like we clicked growing up at all. So being disconnected from her now, it's almost like it should be easier, right? Because since we never really had a relationship in the first place, this should be fine. But sometimes I find that the opposite happens where I'm like, I feel extra bad because it's like I never had it's almost like I grieve this relationship that I feel like wasn't even really there at the same time. So that's a little bit of a mind fuck for me, honestly. Um, and then I want to talk to you about what it was like growing up with a dad who was had some, I would say, narcissistic tendencies. I would say he would have slipped into a religious narcissistic pattern, which is very common for fathers in, Christian fundamentalism to fall into. And how that impacted how I viewed my mother and how she was a mother, I guess. And then I also want to talk about what it's like for just what it's like for me to deal with parental estrangement overall, how I manage my emotions, and how maybe you can start to deal with some of these feelings. All right. So the main reason why I believe that me and my mom were so disconnected growing up was because I wasn't the girl that she wanted me to be. I obviously, am non-binary, and obviously they did not come accept my coming out at all. They kind of, yeah, pretended like that didn't really happen. Obviously, they know that it happened, but they don't really. do anything. They don't really care about it. And growing up, I was, really, how they would say tomboyish. And my mom, like, wanted so desperately for me to be this, like, girly girl. And I I remember looking at certain things that like people would make for me. Like I had a baby album that was like covered in like pink frills and this kind of stuff my mom would put me in, like miserable things that obviously I didn't really like. As soon as I was able to express my discomfort, I was allowed to wear stuff like, I think were they called jorts? No, skorts, skorts. That was like the closest I could get to pants. Like, you know what I mean? I had to like fight to start to be able to express myself in the way that I wanted to. So I was like in contention for my mother from an early age. We didn't really see eye to eye. As I started to grow up even more, and she would be like, "Let's go shopping and buy clothes and stuff." I'm like, "No, I don't really care about that stuff at all." And that was frustrating for her. I just remember she would go shopping and she would come home with something for me. And she'd be like, "I got you this piece of clothing." And I would be like, "I don't like, that is not anything that I would ever want to wear." And it was like, she would never get it. Like she did this for pretty much my whole life. Like she never got it. She never got that. Like, I just did not want to dress in that way. I think over time she started to kind of, she would like by me saying she never got it. It's like she always tried to push it, and like she would push it a little bit. There were things that she would get me that would be fine. I'd be like okay with, but there would always be certain things with a little too much frilly and sparkle that would just annoy me. Yeah, there are probably a lot of reasons why I dressed like that at the time too. I was a teenager growing up and uncomfortable. Like now, I would wear sparkly stuff now. I feel like because I'm more like comfortable with my body overall and things like that. But you know what I'm saying. All right. So so with that said, I also never really felt comfortable talking to my mom about stuff. I don't know. There was just something about her that was just not welcoming in a way. Like there was a disconnect emotionally, and I felt judged by her in a lot of ways. I think also this had to do with the fact that like I would see someone that like had tattoos and stuff and piercings, and I would be like, a part of me was like, there's something about that that I really resonate with. And my mom would be like, yuck, that's gross. And I'm like, okay. And I'm establishing very early that there are several things about my mom that there are some things about me that my mom is just like not really interested in, or there's things that I'm attracted to, or like I resonate with that my mom seems repelled by. So obviously never really felt comfortable talking about my mother. Hey love, I'm just talking about my relationship with my mom. It's Mother's Day today, so I'm just reflecting on some of those thoughts. So I also noticed that my mom was pretty emotionally reactive to my concerns, the things that I would bring up. And I didn't really even test this theory very often because I always told my dad stuff. There was a specific time where I won't really get involved because it's whatever, but I was engaging in some stuff that I was, being young and probably shouldn't have gotten engaged in. And the teacher found out about it and was like, "I'm going to tell your parents." And I was like, but she was like, "I'm going to tell your parents if you don't tell them yourself," which was nice of her to do. She gave me the kind of space to do that myself. So I was like, "I'm going to tell my parents." And I was not going to tell my mom. Like I knew that. I knew I wasn't going to tell my mom. I would tell my dad about it. And my dad was like much more like patient and slower and a little bit more understanding with me. And I think that was probably also another reason why me and my mom were so disconnected. Like me and my dad were super close with each other. We thought the same way. We were interested in similar things. Like I guess like we were interested in the Bible, which I guess that's really the thing that we were both interested in. So we could talk a lot about like have deep conversations about those things together. And so like conversations with him were intellectually stimulating for me. And I didn't necessarily find that with my mom. I didn't really always have the space to have those conversations. That's not to say that I never had those types of conversations with my mom. Like, I did have some like fine conversations with her. Like she was never like bad. Like she was never a bad mom, I would say. She just like was a little bit distant and like we were disconnected. And I feel like even though disconnection is a simple thing, it like can cut really, really, really deep and feel really painful. So it's not like, so yeah, it's not that I blame her. And sometimes in my head, I'm even talking right now, like if she were to somehow watch this video, I wouldn't want her to think that like I just think she was a miserable mom. Like she wasn't. She, and also like I say this stuff like she's not alive and she's alive. You know what I mean? Like I talk about my parents in this like in such a disconnected way just because our relationship is so like non-existent. But yeah, I was talking to a friend earlier today and they brought it up that like, my dad was a lot like me. I'm neurodivergent. I'm pretty positive that my dad is too. Like when I look back at my life, like a lot of it would make sense with just like the way he was as a person, and the things he did and the way he thought, the way he communicated, and the way he acted in public and certain things like that. Anyway, so me being so similar to my dad, that just I think created a lot of room for me being very disconnected from my mom growing up as well. I think if you're a neurodivergent person, you know what it's like to talk to another neurodivergent person. It's just there's a way that it's hard to express because you just know what it feels like. Like there is a way that you guys are able to connect with each other and like, yeah, better than I can with like a neurotypical person, depending on I would say depending on the person. Like, yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I feel like my wife is neurodivergent. I feel like I just don't talk to neurotypical people a lot. Anyway, another thing about my mom is that I oftentimes felt felt like low key manipulation from her sometimes by the fact that she felt she would sometimes like make you feel guilty about like me she oftentimes would make me feel guilty about just the way that I was. And I don't think she was like, you have to feel guilty. A lot of times it was like messages that I would just like pick up by the way that she acted. That was pretty much how it was my whole life growing up. Nothing was really said directly. Most things were kind of acted or pretty like indirectly discussed and things like that. Yeah. The next thing I wanted to talk about was my dad and how he's a little bit like I said, he had some like religious narcissistic traits, I'd say. It's like I don't even blame him for it because it's literally your only option as a patriarch, in a pretty Christian fundamentalist system. So, I'm not really whatever. Because my dad was pretty authoritarian in the way that he did things, like my mom ended up not necessarily having much of a voice of her own. And that was like difficult to see growing up, especially because, I was like raised as a girl in this system. And to see someone who like obvious, like, you know what I mean, had the same role as me be like diminished in this way, like obviously that had a major impact on the way that I like saw, especially the institution of marriage in this system. Obviously also the way that like certain people are treated for different reasons in this system. Definitely not something that I wanted to emulate or ever do in my life. I would oftentimes see her, it would really seem like her spark was just dimmed. And because like if I hung out with her when she was away from my dad, like oftentimes she was sometimes I would see that she could be a little bit more like silly because she'd be like with her like sisters and stuff like that. And it's not to say that she was never silly with my dad or like did not love my dad. Like they definitely were in love with each other and like had a great relationship in they had a great relationship for like what their relationship was, I'd say. Um, but yeah, sometimes I would just like see her act in a different way when she was away from my dad. And I would also see like how her sisters would act and how they were just like much more easygoing and not okay. Some of them were more easygoing, but like doesn't necessarily mean that they weren't like bigots in like a religious sense also. Um yeah. So anyway, so like yeah, her sister's like being much more expressive and easygoing, like, having the like islander spice in them. And like sometimes when I would see my mom, like I just like wouldn't see that a lot in a lot of ways. Very much like the conservative wife of a black conservative man in and I'm thinking of just them like in church, like in our white church, white Baptist church, trying to kind of like be, I don't know, do the thing, like look great and send off a good image to the world and stuff like that. So, like the language that my dad used, like it was not good. Like, and I don't remember exactly what he would say, but it was like he would like I would have to like he would say things like, "Oh, your mom used to do that before I like taught her how to do these things." Like he seemed to want to control her behavior, how she reacted to specific things. And I thought that was pretty, not necessarily cool. I did definitely notice that there were times where this could be about like politics, even like about the Bible, things like that. So we would be sitting around almost every night. We did our Bible study at home as a family. And so pretty much, my dad's like the pastor of our home. Anyway, so we did like Bible study every night. And there'd be some times where like my mom would like want to say something and he would just be like, no, 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 like just stop. And well, it would just be so, and the way like her face would just get it, obviously like as I'm talking, I'm remembering a lot of this stuff and I'm like seeing a lot of this stuff and I'm like watching her face. It's frustrating to see somebody get treated that way. And like I said, like they had a good relationship for what they had, but at the same time, with this stuff involved in the relationship, like how good of a relationship is it? Um, but that is if I'm questioning that relationship, then I'm questioning like pretty much like every conservative relationship, especially those. Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to go on too many tangents today. I want to try to remain concise because how I can go on tangents. All right. I also talked about how, yeah, there was also kind of like very much the idea of those passages where it talks about the woman being kind of like silent and keeping to herself, those types of things. Like very much it felt that way in the home as well. I didn't do that really as much. I was more expressive than my mom was for sure, but I still obviously didn't fully have. I didn't have a full voice obviously until I was able to like leave. Um, yeah, it's so crazy how different of a person I am now that I'm like able to actually like express myself as a person. Um, Someone asked, "Do you have any other mother figures other than your biological mom?" Not really. My mother-in-law like is around, like I could talk to her if I wanted to. Um, but yeah, it's kind of like, and yeah, yeah. So like she's really nice and stuff like that. It's like, and like maybe I could like I'd feel more comfortable like calling my aunt like my mom's twin sister than I do calling my mom. So like she's around, but it's like no one's like that motherly in my life. Like I don't really have anyone like that who I like call every week and I'm like, "Hey, mom, this is what I did this week." I don't know, because I feel like a lot of people do that with their moms, or like monthly. I don't know, every now and again. Anyway, so yeah, I don't have necessarily. I've created community in other ways, and not necessarily, creating my like a chosen family where I have like new parents. The subservient nature that my mom was kind of forced into very much, it impacted the way that I viewed things, and that I viewed, obviously, the institution of Christianity as well, and had issues with that growing up. I remember very early being like, this whole like women don't get to be the same as men thing doesn't necessarily seem so right. Doesn't seem so accurate and fair and stuff like that. Yeah, there were certain things. It was interesting because there were certain things that I like allowed myself to question when I was in that stage, and there were certain things in my brain. I think maybe I wasn't even able to like conceptualize. Like, right. Anyway, okay. So what else? Okay. So the only other thing that I wanted to really chat about is what I'm doing now to kind of manage my feelings about this, and yeah, what I'm doing today on Mother's Day. So, really, one of the most important things that you can do, one of the most important things that I'm doing is like acknowledging my feelings. I noticed that, I was thinking a little bit about Mother's Day yesterday. That's a lie. I've been thinking about Mother's Day since like the first commercial about Mother's Day came up like a month ago. And I was like trying to not think about it. And then like all of a sudden it's Mother's Day and it's like super frustrating. Um, but yeah. Uh Dream Boy says, I love my mom, but I've learned to love her for who she is instead of what I dreamed for her to be. Yeah. Thank goodness for shrooms. I yeah, I can't even I'm totally interested on, what a trip like that would help me process in terms of like my relationship with my parents, but we'll see about that in the future. But yeah, and that's a great way to acknowledge your feelings is to, use plant medicine of some kind. Also, therapy is great. I have, I'm probably going to talk about this in therapy the next time I go to therapy, and just like, yeah, talk a little bit about, well, yeah, all of these feelings. I'm sure there's more stuff that's there. Cause like I said, as I'm talking about this, I'm noticing like my emotional energy is shifting in my body. Um, it was in my chest when I started talking, and now it's like here around. Um, and if you're into like if you're I'm not sure, obviously, like for you guys, if you're like tuned into your body in this way. But this isn't something that's like inaccessible to you if you feel like disconnected from yourself and your emotions and stuff like that. But like I'll say like a year of like diligent work will really transform your relationship with your emotions. Like I said, like now I'm kind of able to sense how things are moving in my emotions and stuff like that. I'll probably cry later. Like that's like I'm starting to kind of like understand my rhythm of emotions a little bit more. Who knows? Maybe it'll shift. It'll shift as I kind of learn my emotions, and I'll have to learn new things. But I kind of teach people as I learn things. I've learned a lot in my process up until now. Anyway, um, right. So the other thing is to kind of like chat with people, chat with other people about your feelings that you have. If you're in a place where you're like, I don't really know what I feel about this particular person, ask a friend if they're like in an emotional space to kind of like be willing to just like chat about these things with you. Ask you just some random questions that they can think about your mom and stuff like that. Sometimes just like being with another person who's like willing to see you is a great way to to allow those emotions to kind of come up safely. Our emotions really like to be witnessed by other people in a safe way, and by ourselves too. But another person, anyway, yeah, I'm going on rants. Anyway, sometimes we forget that there are other people who've gone through similar things like this, and we can feel alone in the world. But sometimes just a quick connection to another person can really help us, feel more. I was going to say connected to other people, which is like a very repetitive way of saying things. Okay. Okay, this one, I think there's another comment that's probably going to come up, so I'll wait till that one's processed. I think another thing is like that I wanted to mention. This is kind of a different topic almost, but you don't have to be like estranged or disconnected in like a like, I don't really like talk to my mom, right? So that's how we're disconnected. Like we don't really ever talk. But another person, you might have like you might talk to your mom like every week, but you can still have like an emotionally disconnected relationship. Like, it could be the type of thing where every time you talk to your mom, you feel empty inside afterwards. Because I've definitely been there. Yeah, because it can be emotionally exhausting. So maybe that's where you are. Either way, this isn't something that that you should have to deal with by yourself because these are heavy emotions. Um, yeah, I don't think that humans aren't designed to deal with these things alone. And I use the word design in a very abstract way, of course. Okay. So Blue says that I've been in therapy for a lot of things and I needed to get things I couldn't get from my mom, and it's helped me severely in growing my relationship with my mom. I've had plenty of mother figures, and every relationship is its own. Of course. Yeah. I think therapy can be super helpful to kind of like, yeah, help you get the things that you do need. Like you say, you can, for example, this is kind of mixed with that other person's statement, just like being able to love your mom for who she is instead of who you dream her to be. Sometimes we have these ideas of what we want from our mother and sometimes what we need from our mothers, and like they're not able to give us those things, and that is upsetting in a lot of ways. We have to be willing to say like, all right, this sucks a lot, and but this is what I've got to deal with this relationship. um I need to be able to find my self-acceptance. I need to be able to find like feeling proud of myself and stuff like that on my own. I have definitely needed to do that because I have, goodness gracious, like, it's so annoying how bad my body like wants approval from my parents. Like everything I do in my head, I like think about my parents. The time it was so annoying when I got my tattoos a couple months ago. Um, I thought in my head, like, what would my parents think? Like, I was so annoyed with myself for thinking this stuff. Yeah. All right. And Dream Boy says, this is how you feel with your dad. Yeah. Like I have a weird relationship with my dad as well. Also, maybe I'll talk about that on Father's Day or something. And that is probably going to be a longer video and maybe even more emotional because I had like a pretty close relationship with my dad. Yeah, so that was way more difficult. Oh no. Bro was jealous of me as a baby. Yeah, that's upsetting. And I don't know what it is with these narcissistic parents. Goodness gracious, dude. It's awful. Like, yeah. And like, for example, I kind of go back and forth between, was my dad a narcissist or was he autistic or something? Um, not that like, because I think there can be mirrors. There can be mirrors in the way that they present in terms of like, yeah, the like your intent, like, yeah. Sometimes you can like have a lot of autonomy and like want things to be your way, which can also, I think, look similar, but they have different sources. Anyway. Yeah. Also, guys, this is like mental illness in I don't know, like I also for me, like mental illness in Black families not being dealt with, fathers who are mentally ill in different ways, not and like mentally ill and also like being neurodivergent and stuff like that, having different things going on that they might need support for, and like not knowing to get support and not getting support. How much this impacts our family. Now when I look also back at my life and certain things, I hear people talking about like, yeah, there are like certain things like I know that like there was a lot of like disorganization in my like physically in my house, and I'm not always sure if that was just because we were all messy. Because I know that some people talk about how like sometimes like mothers who are like depressed and overwhelmed, like that's a common thing for them as well. So I don't know like if maybe my mom was also dealing with mental health stuff as well. My mom was like one of 10 kids who left her home in Haiti when she was like a teen and was like teased through her life. So like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, and her mom didn't really, I'm pretty sure I've heard my mom say that like her mom wasn't the kind to be like to say I love you and all of that stuff. So yeah, even though I'm in this place where I'm like, you know, my parents do have to take some responsibility for where they are if we're gonna have a relationship with each other, and I'm not necessarily gonna, at least right now, I don't see myself necessarily shifting too much on that. But I do also recognize that they have a lot of stuff that and a lot of trauma that is probably informing the way that they are acting, their opinions and different things like this. So like I said, and I'll say it as many times as I need to. I don't hold any of this against them. I don't hold them being the way they are against them just because like, yeah, I see as I've learned and as I've seen my pain and as I've reflected on how everything has impacted me, like all I can have is like compassion for them. That compassion, like also, you know, it doesn't necessarily compel me to like move in the direction of, and which is crazy because in a lot of ways, like my understanding of compassion is like caring about someone and its ability to motivate you to like try to alleviate that suffering. And in a lot of ways, like me alleviating my parents' suffering is to like abandon my own boundaries. And that is frustrating. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, compassion in the situation is saying like my boundaries need to be firm in the situation. Maybe in the future, like, and this is honestly, I do think this way. Maybe in the future, my emotions, hey Rye, will be a little bit more like I'll be stronger or something like that, and then to I'll be able to handle them more. But right now, I can't. Right now, I'm not in that place, and it freaks me out. It scares me. Like I don't like this because I always get worried. Like if something happens to my parents or something like that, I'll lose my mind. You know what I mean? But I just this is all I've got right now. You know. Okay, Alexi. Alexi, that's a cool name. I relate so much. Both of my parents I'm super distant from, and yet still want their approval. It's almost like the things I know they won't approve of, I want their approval for the most. Goodness gracious, I feel the same exact way. Like pretty much like so much of my internalized transphobia, and I have like me I have what's called I've called it my inner turf, that like it's like this little voice that lives in my head that's like um it's like trans men are women, like all like just like all the time. I think just because it was how like I was raised and stuff like that. And it's because I feel like it's the voice of like my parents in my head, like that just like lives there, which is really annoying. Anyway, yes, I hate it a lot, and it's so annoying to want approval. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's one of the things. Like, off like because I don't remember if I actually said this in a video out loud, but there was one day I was like in the kitchen and I was like, I don't remember if I was shirtless, but I was like feeling myself. You know, like I was like feeling comfortable in my body and everything. And I was wearing a packer, and so just was feeling great and like feeling nice about myself. And then like this like instant wash came over me, and it was like, imagine what your parents would think of you. And it was like, God fucking damn it. Like, really? Come on. Like, really? Self, like, really, brain? Like, why'd you have to do that shit to me? You know? It's super frustrating. And like I said, it's important for me to not like ignore those feelings and like push that away. So now I've learned to be like, okay, look at that. Look at those feelings of shame that are here. I look at that. I hate it. You know, and a lot of crying and stuff also happens. It's really important. It's really important, guys. And also this comment too, self-love and boundaries over toxic relationships. And I'm like really upset about this. I almost want to like stand up because I'm like, okay, so I watched and maybe no, I won't. I don't know. I always say this, maybe I'll make a video and I never do. So I'm just gonna stop saying it anyway. There was this video that I watched, like a clip of, when you scroll YouTube, it'll like start playing a video like automatically. So it was this video. This Christian woman had the fucking nerve to out of her mouth say some shit like, there are some times when it's appropriate to leave a narcissistic relationship, but there are certain times when God puts you in that situation for such a time as this for your benefit. I wanted to like I don't even know. I just like, Jesus, take the wheel. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay. So, you know what I'm saying? So it's one of those things where like I said earlier, my parents have a good relationship for what it is, but at the same time, it's like, who would my mom have been if she was able to like have been herself outside of relationship with my dad? You see who I am outside of my house? Imagine how different everyone in my house would be. Yeah, I feel for my brothers too, because I have 3 other brothers and they are still just like, I don't think they live home, but they're still like locked in to that mindset. It's like this, and I know that there's this way that like especially narcissistic religious families, that patriarchal type of system can oftentimes like almost feel like this like mini cult feeling. Like when you're out, like it's really hard to like get into the group. And yeah, I'm like always going to be like the outsider. Like even though I have like my one brother who like will like reach out to me a little bit more often than my other ones, like I still see him like in all the pictures with all of my other family members, and it's like I'm the only one who's not there. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, all right. Wow. Yeah, patriarchal Christian beliefs are the worst. And like you said, your dad making fun of you, that's awful. If I had $1 for all of the Black children that get sent to emergency mental health, only for their parents to say, you don't believe in God more, that's why you're here. Dude, that is literally one of them. Like, I wonder how different would be. Because who knows? You know what I'm saying? Who knows? Like, because I know there is more fruit by the foot in my family. I don't know what that sentence meant, but I know you know what it means. I know that it exists. And I also am curious about my dad, because he sometimes would like talk about, and it could just be like, okay, because like, he would say like, I had issues with like, he would like make statements about maybe like, I don't know if it's just like one time he like saw a pornographic picture and like was so angry with himself that he was like, I was addicted to porn, or like if he like actually, I don't know like what this was, but I just think it would be funny if my dad was like secretly gay. I just, whatever. There's undercover person. Exactly. The Black Rapunzel just like trapped away. Is that the image that you're giving? Like trapped away in the tower. Or did you also have long hair? Like I'm not sure what energy, what vibe you're giving. Also, if you guys like, just as a thing, I've been going on TikTok live to talk about like just like to talk to people about like religion and like gender and stuff like that, because I love it. I love it so much. It's a guilty pleasure of mine to talk to people and watch them like make stupid arguments for stuff. I don't know. I love it. So if you're into that stuff, I'm after this, that's where I'm gonna be. So if you wanna continue the party, I'm gonna be over there. I've been there a lot. I like go through phases of whatever I'm interested in. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, I want to make like actual videos. And sometimes I'm like, I'm only ever going to do live streams. And sometimes I'm like, I want to go back to TikTok. And, you know, I don't know what I'm doing. And so I am just, guys, okay, I'm going to say, I'm just sowing my seed all around the internet. I wasn't going to say that out loud, but I was like, whatever. You guys are my friends. We're, you know. All right. So I think that was pretty much all the other comments that I wanted to go through. Does anyone else have any other family thoughts? Any other things they want to share before I wrap this up? Oh, guys, the last thing. Oh, I forgot. The last thing, my notes about like what to do, like how to do the estrangement, is like creating community with other people. Through my, like, I don't know what happened to live emojis. I'm not sure what that is, what that even is. So I started the Black trans support group like last year sometime. And I know I have like a teensy little platform, and I'm sure that probably helped facilitate me like connecting to other people and stuff like that. But through that platform, like I was able to connect with another like non-binary Haitian person who's like dealing with parental estrangement and like knows the culture. Like what are the chances in the world that I would be able to connect with another person like that? And like being able to just like know that someone like that exists in the world. And I'm almost positive that, and I wanted to ask them before I made this video, but I think that they're involved with some type of organization that's like support for parental estrangement and stuff like that. I haven't like gotten involved in any of it, but I'm interested in checking it out. And maybe if I do, I'll post some of the information in the comments here, because making community is really important. Rye says, having a mom who favors me. Oh, wow. Yeah. Yikes. Favors you but dislikes other kids feels very wrong. I feel like that would be really weird. Yeah. Like really weird and really uncomfortable. Like, yeah. Because I think like sometimes, okay, like let me be honest. Like, because I always, like, for example, my mom would like spoiled me a little bit. I think because like, you know what I'm saying? Like I was what she was waiting for, so to speak, or whatever. And I was I just think I was fine with it because my brothers were annoying. So, but I'm sure that like what you're talking about is a little bit different than like, you know, my mom getting me like more outfits because like, you know, she wanted to buy me skirts and like was tired of buying the boys pants and stuff like that. Yeah, dang. Okay, so can we also talk about how the firstborn end up being parents to their siblings? I know, yeah. I know where I talked about that in the other comment. Rye says they co-parented with their siblings and they try to and it's annoying to feel like you have to protect your other sibling from your parent. I oftentimes talk about how like my oldest brother was kind of like the tyrant in our family. And so even though I was the youngest, I would often feel like I would have to protect just my one older brother, Julian, from him. Because I really did not like to see, me and him were the closest growing up. And I didn't like to see him get, and so we were the closest growing up, and he was like very sensitive. And so like I didn't like to see him get like picked on at all. So I understand like that feeling of like being able to protect another sibling from another person. And then also like where were my parents? Where were they? Like I know, and I'm gonna be honest, I know that they tried with my brother. He was just not a nice person and was very difficult to parent. Yeah, really difficult. You need to make a video on African. Yeah, I'm guessing you're saying I need to make a video on African families dealing with queer children. My families are, my parents are Haitian, which is, I guess, African by, I don't know what you call it. It's part of the African diaspora for sure. Yeah, it's like, damn, like I should like do a case study or something like that. Like maybe I should do like a really like you know how people do those like video essays where they like interview a whole bunch of people and like have conversations about like, you know, queerness and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure someone else did a video like that on Caribbean homophobia, which was interesting. But that could be a project that I could work on or something. But I don't know. Right now, yeah, who knows? We'll see. Yeah, because that shit sucks. It really does. Yeah, I hate it. Like, and also with how, and I don't remember what country. I think it was Uganda. Whatever country just really just made that law about the gay law. I think it was either like imprisonment or like the death penalty or something like that. It would be really difficult. Yeah, like just those like the opinions are so deeply rooted, and it's pretty yeah, I hate it, and it's pretty disturbing to think about. But yeah, and if I do make this type of a video, I probably would need your guys' support. And yeah, I probably would like you guys would probably be the people that I'd talk to and interview and stuff like that and have conversations with. But yeah, that would be a good idea. Because you know what, like oftentimes I'm like, you know, I am interested in going like the doctorate route, like going back to school, because I apparently can't, you know, torture myself enough with learning. I have to pay people to torture me to do it or something. Anyway, but at the same time, I'm like, that's a lot of money, and then also I can like spend a lot of time, pretty much like doing research on topics that I just want to, and like publish it on YouTube. You know what I'm saying? Like I know that damn it, of course now I can't. FD Signifier, who's another YouTuber. That would be great. Dream Boy, if you can send that to me on Instagram, that'd be awesome. Yeah, or you can even like link it in the comments, whatever works. Oh yeah, FD Signifier, who's another YouTuber who does like video essays and stuff like that. I don't remember what I was saying about him, but I know that he makes those things. Uganda is full of shit. Ugh. That's upsetting. Okay. All right, guys. I think I'm gonna call it a day right now. Like I said, if you want to keep hanging out, I'm gonna go on TikTok and hopefully yell at a bunch of Christians, which is, like I said, my favorite pastime. I'm just bored because my wife is gone and she's out doing her volunteering today, and it's the spring and there are lots of baby animals apparently. Like she's getting to like hand feed baby squirrels and shit, and like there are these baby birds that need to get fed every 15 minutes, and she said they're like 2 days old. And I don't know why I'm talking about this, but I think it's cute. Anyway, but they're like, their eyes aren't even open and you can like see all their organs. And she says like, as you feed them, you can almost like watch their digestive tract working, which I think is super cool. Anyway, and I'm still trying. My wife is very shy. So she is very camera shy. So like, she wants us to do like a podcast thing first. So, I am trying to get her to come and talk to you guys and share a little bit of her thoughts and stuff, because yeah, she has to deal with me. And so I know you guys probably like, oh yeah, Mav is cool and stuff, but yeah. She has to deal with me when I'm like not put together and, you know, talking to you guys and stuff like that. Okay, now I'm for real gonna leave. Follow me on other places. Subscribe here if you're not already. Connect with me on Instagram. It's the 14th, so I think it's the 16th. This next Tuesday, we're going to be doing our monthly Black trans support group meeting, and who knows, maybe I'll make it Mother's Day themed or something like that. So if you fall into that group and you would like to come, just let me know and I will get you the information so you can do that. Bye. Peace and love. I will see you next week.